Let's go on to our next question, William. We got another question from Peak View Buff. He wanted to know when a fan base loses a commit to another school, the common thought is it must have been about money. What percentage of the time do you think that it actually is true? I know you are a strong
Well, I don't
you
know. I
you
don't know
don't think
about
the
this.
NIL is as big a deal as a lot of us.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know how to put that exactly into words. I don't think it's everything, which is what some people seem to think. In terms of asking me to put a percentage on it, I really have no idea. You're probably closer to you talk to those recruits and know what's more on their radar than I do. Um, my gut tells me that when we lose somebody to another school, it's not always about NIL. That sometimes they just want to go to a different place or they like it better. I mean, it's not always that somebody handed them a bag of money. It's just that's a better fit.
Yeah, no, I based on my experience, it's the top level guys, the Jordan Seatons that are gonna have
Right. Right.
to not send in that NIL because NLI, National Letter of Intent. Yeah,
Right.
those two acronyms have been
Right.
bundled in my brain for a couple of years now. Uh, he did not sign his letter of intent on Wednesday because there was some persuasion going on as far as this goes. Now, there have been other guys that have kind of had to deal with that as well, but it's really the top tier guys you're talking about in that sense.
Right.
And everybody, CU fans that are watching this should get down on two knees and thank Coach Prime for coming to Boulder, because that's
Right.
why we have this discussion on this mailbag right now. Is
Right.
that they are recruiting a different tier of player than what Colorado is used to,
Right.
and it really is those top guys. I did a podcast with the 5430 Foundation, and it's really cool to hear about their passion for CU based on the fact that they've been CU supporters the last 20 plus years because
Right.
they've been through the tough times like you and I, William, and they're trying in that space to help CU out. But Colorado's never going to be Arkansas, Alabama,
Yeah.
Tennessee in that regard. Florida State, there are maybe 10 programs where you can
Right.
go in. Their NIL
Well.
collective is just out of
Right.
control. Today's episode is brought to us by Macaulay Capital Fractional CFO Services. If you are running a successful small to medium sized business, you have an impressive set of skills. But as your company grows, you face new and different challenges. When you eclipse $3 million in revenue, you likely have a whole new set of financial challenges. Are you looking for financial guidance and support but don't have the resources to hire a full time CFO? Well, we have the solution for you, hiring a fractional CFO from Macaulay Capital. A fractional CFO can work with businesses on a part time basis, providing the same expertise as a full time CFO at a fraction of the cost. You get the benefit of having a seasoned financial expert on your team without the commitment or expense of a full time hire. We love to help your business thrive by improving its profitability and eliminating your financial headaches. Get a long term partner you can trust to help craft your financial strategy, understand the profitability of each client, help manage your cash smartly so you can take advantage of rising interest rates, and more. It's likely that a partnership with Macaulay Capital will be a win win situation, meaning that your business will make more money from the guidance of a fractional CFO than the total cost of partnering with Macaulay Capital. For more information or to set up a meeting, visit macaulaycapital.com or email CFO at macaulaycapital.com. That's MCCAULEY capital.com. William, I'm sorry, I know you're trying to cut in, but like the good thing is that it kind of exposes guys that aren't willing to work because it hasn't
Right.
really worked out. When you spend X amount of money on guys, you expect X amount of results, and that really has
Right.
not been the case.
Right. And I think that on largely on a larger scale, as long as you're competitive in NIL, as long as you can put something on the table, you're in the game. And then it comes down to recruiting like everything else. If everybody's putting an equal amount on the table, then it comes down to can you recruit or not? But you mentioned briefly a minute ago we lost a guy to Notre Dame. Well, you know what? You lose a guy to Notre Dame, you lost a guy to Notre Dame. It's not like they picked New Mexico State over us, and then you got to wonder what's going on. But it's like some guys want to play at those big name, blue blood schools.
Yeah. All right. Did we skip over a peak view question? He
Yeah, we
was
did. He
asking
asked about
about
Shermer.
Shermer.
Yes.
What type of changes do you see happening to the offense from a scheme standpoint? I'll be honest, William, I don't know. I did like what we saw from some of the ingenuity, like in intuition in some of those games, but
Yeah.
it's hard to get a full grasp of what he's going to bring to the table.
Well, I think it certainly is going to be more of a emphasis on the run game and being able to run the ball. I don't think we're going to become a run first, pass second team, but we're certainly going to run the ball enough to keep defenses honest because I think Shermer's been around the block enough times to know that you can't do it one way or the other.
Yeah. Do you think that in the last, what has it been since the uh, USC game? Probably 4 months. Do you think he's spent a lot of time kind of delving into college offenses and what works at this level? I I said this on the last podcast. I really, really like his cerebral approach to things. Um, and I just don't watch the NFL. So I don't have
Yeah.
this negative conception of Pat Shermer that a
Right.
lot of folks do. That's not in my memory bank. Like that
Yeah.
is something that a lot of people draw on, but I really don't know where that comes from. I don't know what he did with the Broncos.
Well, and I think NFL offenses are much more quarterback centric, and there's not a lot of those quarterbacks in college football, quite frankly. And that's why they otherwise it all get drafted, I guess, in the first couple of rounds. And so if you've got the quarterback, even a second-rate NFL quarterback is going to be one of your top quarterbacks in college, and it's got to be somebody that can read a defense and do those kinds of things. When you're in college, you're talking about young guys that don't have the football experience necessarily that a Shador has just because of who he grew up with. But so I think that given who we have at quarterback, that having an NFL guy on the offense is a good thing. But I think he'll also, I don't want to cast stones. I think he'll hold his assistant coaches accountable. I just don't feel that Sean Lewis held O'Boyle accountable, that there was some kind of friendship thing going on there and didn't require him to do his damn job, which is develop an offensive line. But the play calling to me last year, I don't know who decided what, but the play calling to me was mystifying. It was mystifying and stupid. Um, and you got to keep a defense honest, or you're throwing you guys under the bus. So, I think we'll have much better play calling. I think we'll have a more traditional tight end presence. Not that we had a lot of tight ends on the roster, but um, I think that'll be a more traditional thing, and I think we'll see a more thought out and practice running game, if nothing else.
And for 2024, the fact that he and Shador Sanders seem to be symbiotic. They seem to
Right.
have a really good relationship is
Right.
maybe the most important quality of anything you could ask for in an OC, right?
Well, that's something that's really come out, maybe in that last 2 weeks of the season and after the season. That's really, the more I see of that, the more I see how dysfunctional that relationship between Shadur and Lewis was, and man, it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work, and that's the guy. They have to work together and be on the same page, and at least respect each other. And if that's not there, you're gonna have a hard time making that offense work.
There's a chance that Shador Sanders will be the top drafted quarterback in next year's NFL draft in the 2025 draft. And when you have a talent like that, and I know that folks that don't cover Colorado will try to do the what's the word I'm looking for with Cody and Dan Hawkins, the
Nepotism.
nepotism.
Yeah,
Yeah,
which is ridiculous.
I don't think I've seen that word mentioned once since Coach Prime was hired, because a credit to folks that cover or follow Colorado, but they see with their own eyes that this is a special talent, and you just got to give the young man
Yeah, right.
time to operate back there.
Well, we've seen that word. We've seen that word in the last 24 hours, and that's the next question coming up.
Oh, is it? Oh,
But
good
yeah,
segue here.
but before we go, that the other thing that this is not necessarily a Shermer question, but the thing that encourages me is these incoming linemen. And I think it particularly was Khalil Benson. Saying our goal, we are coming in, and it wasn't their offensive line last year, but they got a chip on their shoulder that we're going to keep this guy off the ground, and we're gonna keep Shadur upright. And I think having an offensive line come in with that attitude and desire to prove something is a good thing.
Khalil Benson's mother went on the Big Dog Chico show. Did you see
She's
that,
she's
William?
she's awesome, isn't she? Great. Yeah.
I don't know her, but I want to know
Right. Oh my
Mrs.
God.
Benson. Yeah, I
Yeah.
am actually gonna do a collaborative podcast with Big Dog Chico
Who,
on
who were the who were
Wednesday.
the who were the two guys we had back, 2016 and stuff? One was a tackle, one was a tight end from Texas, Irwin's.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was close friends with their mom, and I'd see her at every game. She'd come up, bring me brisket from Texas, and she was a character too. I'd like to find Khalil Benson's mom. I don't know what she cooks, but I bet it's good.
Yeah, that was I had like 18 things to do that day, and I got into that video with Big Dog Chico, and that's why I reached out to him because, like, man, we got to collaborate. I respect your work for bringing her on, and
Yeah.
that was awesome. All right, let's go on to not the most hotly debated topic with CU in the last few days, but Booyaka Shah asked, "Where are the Sanders boys this weekend?"
Hey, boo. Yeah, how about throwing a grenade in there, Booyakasha? Wise guy.
Are
I
they in
think I,
Paris? I
I
don't
think
have
they're in
GPS tracking on the
Paris,
Sanders
Paris,
boys.
Kentucky, isn't it? Isn't that where they went for the annual ski
I
festival?
yeah, I put a message on our message board. I don't know if I can find it, but it was basically, look, like you can choose to be miserable through this whole Coach Prime experience, but um, you have the best roster that we've seen in Boulder in a very
Yeah.
long time. Maybe team chemistry could be an issue if, but we don't know. We don't know what's been said behind the scenes,
Right.
right? So
Right. Right.
everybody
We
just
don't.
wants to cast aspersions on this whole deal, and
Well, we don't know what was known beforehand. I mean, all these guys are teammates and they know each other and they talked and probably knew it was coming. But I think two people really nailed it on the board. One was ZJ was talking about, look, if a guy misses a hard work practice or a workout or whatever, that's one thing. But the initial meeting of the season, big deal. It's going to be forgotten in a week or 2 weeks. As long it's when you show up and how hard you work in those hard ones that's going to develop, teamwork and leadership. And then somebody else uh, mentioned, and I thought this was a really good point that look, the only place that's really divisive is if somebody else got a chance to go and he said no to that person. Nobody else had the opportunity, and so it's apples and oranges to say that there is favoritism for this that and the other thing. I think it's implied, at least in some of the things that I've seen, that this is a benefit to the program in some way in terms of publicity or whatever. We'll see how that plays out, but I don't know. I don't think it's an issue, and I don't think that you're going to see a lot of guys. The bottom line is that Shadur and Shiloh are going to play in the NFL. Man, they're good players. And at the end of the day, that's all that really matters. Is work hard and be good players.
Buff Bosco asked, "What changes need to be made to the transfer portal?" And
Oh
he
boy.
put in, yeah, he asked transfer
Oh
portal
boy.
windows, how many times you can transfer. I would say that, oh man, William, I must want to punt on this question. We could
Right.
spend a
Right.
full
Right. Where do you go with this?
day.
How do you fix
Leadership.
this thing?
What
Right.
changes need to be made to the transfer portal? His question. Um, I love boxing. I've never been a huge MMA guy. Um, it's not, this is going to come out wrong, but it's like guys are kind of dry humping each other like on the ground, too much for my taste. Um, but but I love boxing.
Okay, don't any MMA guys come in and kick Adam's backside for that comment?
They're coming from me. They're not gonna like that. Uh, Boxing was to me like the sweet science that we hear
Right,
the greats
right.
in that sport talk about.
I, I
I
know
just
exactly
I
what you mean.
love kind of that calculated violence that takes place in
Right.
boxing. That
Well,
it's not just brute
yeah.
force. It's
Well,
a lot of technique, but there was no leadership in boxing in what happened. MMA took over.
and
And that's what I worry about college football. Sorry, go
yeah,
ahead.
right. And I mean, Muhammad Ali was art. It was art. It was ballet. It was beautiful. It was gorgeous. And he just could do things, and it was beautiful to watch. And I get it. I entirely understand what you mean. Whereas, like the MMA to me, there's a lot of technique and what have you, but it's kind of, I think, people just like the brutality. I don't know.
There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, no, it I've watched enough MMA to like know that there's a sweet science component of that as well. Like I probably
Sure,
should
sure.
backtrack from that initial statement. That just is my personal opinion, having watched a lot of that. And I kind of miss, boxing after dark mattering on HBO. Like
Right,
I would change my plans to
right,
watch just mid-level boxers go at it, and there just isn't the same quality. I know there's been
right.
some good matches here more recently, but yeah, to me, kind of that statement is more built off the disappointment over boxing.
I, I
Let's
think
get in.
I
Go
think
ahead.
I think what we all loved about college football. Well, I think there was a lot of things we loved about college football over the years, but one of them to me was always watching guys come in as freshmen and watching them progress year to year. And by the time they're a fifth year guy, you kind of felt like they were your friend. You knew that guy, and he'd been there and been through things. You watched them develop, and you remember, hey, remember when that guy was a freshman, got his butt kicked and whatever. And you're not going to have that anymore. So you have to develop a different way of loving the players on your team or whatever, because they're not going to be there necessarily year to year. Some will, some won't. But I do think it's is a positive for players to be able to get into better situations, because I've always felt like for 40 years watching the sport, guys would pick the wrong place and their career went down the drain because of it. And maybe if they'd have gone to a different place with a different coach or different opportunities, they could have been something.
Does it feel more transactional? That's kind of my concern about college football going forward.
Maybe, but I think you still have to be, as a coach, you have to develop a relationship with those guys and get them to believe in what you're doing to come and play for you. So I don't know. Uh, is it more like the NFL? Maybe, I suppose. There still seems to be that sort of, I don't know. There's sort of that young, childlike excitement about it, that it's not just there for a job. Although there's more aspect to that now.
Unblockable asked Adam, you recently acknowledged being dressed down by a certain coach for reporting on something they didn't want out there. Just out of curiosity, what type of reporting can get you in hot water? Question mark. For example, sharing info on secret visitors, unofficial staff changes, injuries, etc. Any color would be great. Thank you. Uh, it's walking a tightrope. It,
Right.
and that's the thing, is that there's no manual for this. And there's a reason that I've done this for 21 years now, is that I have a sensibility, but man, I still, for whatever reason, push buttons here or there, and I don't mean to. I'm trying on one, when I talk about tightrope, I'm talking about, okay, on one hand, you have CU fans that want to know everything
Right now.
right now. And you've
Yeah,
got on the other side a staff that has a whole different set of agenda that
right.
doesn't match up with that. And so navigating that is unquestionably the hardest part of this job. Like it's not going to get any easier because you have constantly new coaches. Just, yesterday they have a new receivers coach. I don't know him. I'm not going to share like what my process is in terms of getting sources, but uh, I don't know what is going to push his buttons.
Right.
Uh, but CU fans are going to want updates on the receivers in 2024. So you're walking that tightrope, and I try so hard, William. I try so hard to make everybody happy. It just
Yeah.
is impossible when you come to the end of it in terms of that push and pull that I talked about.
Right. Well, part of what you do is, well, a lot of what you do is built on relationships, and relationships are built on trust. And so people tell you things with the idea that doesn't necessarily come from them, for the most part. And so you have your sources, and you have to protect those sources. So people want to know things, but if you spit out everything that you get 5 minutes after you get it, people can stop telling you stuff.
Right. Yeah, it's so complicated. This is one of those things. Same deal with the Arizona folks. Like, I really do want to kind of share everything, but I know that's not in the best interest of everybody involved, right? And
Right.
so having that internal debate, there's a reason that I've been up since 2 this morning, because I got a DM from somebody that I respect. And man, it just, what I will tell Colorado fans, and I genuinely mean this, is that there is no part of the day in which I'm not looking to do what's best for buffstampede.com. And there's just so many complicated intricacies within that I just, it's not professional to share. Um, it's hard to bite my tongue. It really is. Like,
When
I
you
mean,
have
if
different,
if I was literally biting my tongue, I wouldn't have a tongue,
yeah,
is what I
you,
would say.
your priority is to this website and the subscribers and the people who pay for it and who are there on that board, and the responsibilities of the people that you're talking to, these coaches, these staff members, their responsibility is to that team, and it's a different responsibility, as you said, and so they're going to give you information in a way that benefits whatever their goal is, right? And you have to sort through that and say, well, okay, are they feeding me BS? Are they spinning me? Is this real? Can I share this? If I share this, am I going to cut off that source and what have you? And people don't seem to grasp. I think that in what you do, like you said, walking a tightrope is a good analogy for it, or metaphor for it. That not only do you have to please all the people on the board, you got to keep those other people that are giving you the information happy, or you're going to stop getting that information.
But I wouldn't choose another
Yeah.
path, another profession to have.
Well, I've noticed, when our podcasts go up on YouTube, there are people that have a different view of how I say things and how you say things, and they don't understand. You're a journalist with professional responsibilities and ethics. I'm not. I'm not a journalist. I'm a guest. I can say what I want. I don't have sources to protect, and I'm not, under the journalistic ethics or what have you. I'm just a guy you get on here because I'm a blowhard and you like to hear what I had to say. So it's a totally different situation that you're in than from what I'm in, and I have a lot more freedom to say things that I want to say, and then you have to decide whether they go up in the air or not.
Well, if I ever bring up Dan Lenning's name, and I don't get a response out of you that cracks me up, then we're doing something wrong here. And actually,
Well,
I
and I'll tell you
really
one.
enjoy I really enjoy we got a question about opposing beat writers. Like, the Oregon beat writers are Matt Frem and Eric. They're among the best people that I've met, and it's no reflection on them. But yeah, Dan Lenny kind of brings out on himself, and in
And,
terms of what he did out in Eugene this past, what was that, October?
yeah, and then one other thing, something that you mentioned a minute ago, is like, if you ever do give us the full Monty, I'm out of here.
You don't have to worry about that, William. We're going to keep this going on for a very long time without the full Monty. Let's jump back into the mailbag. I don't know. We're gonna have to split this up into like 3 shows. I really enjoyed chatting with you. Do you have to go anywhere, William?
No, I'm good.
Dangerous asked, have we lost anyone from last year to the portal yet that surprises slash concerns you? I figured we'd have a few disappointing defections of starting caliber players, but hasn't seemed to happen yet. Um, I think we touched on this. I probably
Right,
Anthony Hankerson, right? Is probably the main
right,
one.
Hankerson and Van Wells, I guess I would like to have around.
Okay.
Beyond that, nobody
But
comes.
you would I'm sorry to cut you off. You would ask Van Wells to be a backup in 2024, right? How realistic is that?
Well, I wouldn't have asked him to be that. I think
Okay.
he's the best center on the team. I don't think anybody's going to
Okay.
beat him out. I don't think this new guy, Yakiri Walker's not going to beat out Van Wells. I think Van Wells got a
Hank
bright future in
Zelinskis.
it. Uh, I think they would have fought it out, but I don't think Hank was
Okay.
going to pass up Wells by any means. I think Wells is a lot better player than people think he is. And I think he's going to show that.
Yeah, I mean, outside of that, it's
We
mostly
mentioned
good
Duquette.
attrition,
Yeah,
and
we talked about Duquette
I'm not
Robertson.
gonna just start throwing out names like that.
Right,
Just
right.
seems not
Yeah,
right. I'm going down the
you know,
list.
and I think we'll see what happens in spring ball, and some guys will become starters and others won't. Some of those guys will leave.
Yeah, I think Jacquez Robinson would have been a nice depth piece. Hmm.
But he,
Marvin Ham is a weird case.
right, yeah, he just never
Yeah, I
really
thought it.
became
Well,
that guy.
that Arizona State game though, I felt like in the second half he was one of the key pieces in terms of them slowing down the Sun Devils offense.
Yeah,
And I don't know what happened there. And that's one, as I rack my brain about things I would ask during spring ball. That's top of my list when we talk to Coach Hart, the linebackers coach, about what happened with Marvin Ham last year, because he earned his number before most of his teammates and seemed to be playing okay. And we didn't see him down the stretch.
right.
Any other guys?
Not that I can think of. I don't think there's anybody else. I think what we're bringing in is better than what we lost by a significant manner. I think there's some guys still on the roster that kind of surprised me, but we'll see how that plays out after spring.
Chuckles asked, are there any CU players in the transfer portal who may stay at CU? First off, I think Chuckles predates me covering Colorado back when I was the publisher of the CU site on Rivals back in 2003. I think he was already on there. It was a big player, so we don't do this often, but Chuckles,
Kudos, old
kudos
timer.
for sticking around all these years. In terms of his question, I don't think so.
No, I wouldn't imagine anybody coming back that's out there. I mean, it sort of follows off the last question where there wasn't anybody out there that were all that worked up about losing.
Yeah. Padillac 13 asked, what school has your least what school has your least favorite media team?
Make some enemies here. Go for it.
Oh man. I just spent a lengthy amount of time, maybe too long-winded of a time, talking about how I gotta bite my tongue about certain things, and I'm gonna do that here. Do you
Yeah.
do
Let, let me turn it a little bit and say,
okay.
going to the Big 12, what differences do you see in terms of media teams from the Pac-12 going into this new conference?
I don't know. I know from my days on Rivals that before Colorado left the Big 12, Gabe Dearmond, Josh McQuistion, trying to think of all those people, John Kirby, like that. We had a really, really tight knit group. It was unquestionably the best camaraderie that I've had with a media team in a conference. And man, we did so much collaborative work. And Sean Callahan from Nebraska, like, these are names that I'm throwing out there of teams that CU fans hate,
Right.
but it's kind of like politics. Like, sit down and talk to somebody. You're not that far away from what you both want. Like, that's part of the problem in our country right now, is that we let media dictate like who we hate and like, and I definitely don't want to lend to that. I would say that whole team was awesome, and we've all kind of gone our separate ways. I think Gabe, I don't know if anybody is still part of Rivals that was part of that group.
I just feel like I feel very fortunate to be part of this in a tangential sort of way, and to watch uh, Coach Prime Deion Sanders do what he does, and I can't think of any place I would. I mean, okay. Granted, I'd like to see CU in a championship game, winning a championship, but I can't think outside of that any place I'd rather have our program be than in the hands of Deion Sanders and all the kinds of things that people are, bickering about on the board right now, or tempest in a teapot. And I think we have a man at the head of this organization that we can be proud of, man. Win or lose, I'm proud to have the man there. I just really am. We watched the Coach Prime show, and the wife constantly mentions about how clearly he cares about these kids, and it means a lot to me that he cares about these kids. It means a lot to me, to see a black head coach be given a shot, and to excite a fan base the way he has, and to sort of bring things to Boulder that haven't been there before. And I just think the whole darn thing is still just as exciting to me as it was a year ago, quite frankly.
Yeah. No, more exciting. Like you think of what it takes to build a football roster, and you can change over a roster, but you're not going to get there in one off season. There's just
Right.
it doesn't happen when you have 85
Right.
guys, and other teams are going to expose your weakest link. There's no way around that. Obviously, it was the old line in 2023, but that's why when we get questions, William, like we're the Sanders boys this weekend. I'm like, okay, take the traditional hat off, sit
Right.
back and think about, okay, perspective. It's all about perspective. Where were we 13 and a half months ago? And I know where we are now, and it's much better than we were 13 and a half months ago.
Right. And what's even better is I feel like 13 months from now we'll be in an even better place.
Yeah.
That's what feels good about it.
The fact that he has embraced Colorado too
Right.
is,
Right.
he,
Really like
he's
no
one of
other.
those people that is not fake. Like he's not gonna
Right.
do
Right.
things that are not genuine to his core. And
Right.
I was talking with somebody the other day about this. Like there is something about Colorado that when you spend time here, you can't get it out of your system. And
Right.
aside from Mel Tucker,
Like
but
he gets out, he goes out into that -5 degree weather with a coat on, and look at how excited he was, like a little kid, first time he ever saw snow. He doesn't have to go to those basketball games, and he took those two true freshmen to that basketball game and introduced them to Peggy. He didn't have to do that stuff, but he does, because he embraces all the little things at RCU. Even watching him meet Ralphie the first time, and he of afraid of him. It's just it's not only fun how excited he is about every little thing. Like I think he put out a tweet yesterday talking about a beautiful picture of snow covered Folsom Field. And he said, "Don't be afraid of snow. You're going to play it in the NFL," which says two things. I believe you're going to be in the NFL, and that's why I want you here. And come here and get used to it. I mean, it's just the whole darn thing is still just as fresh as it was to me a year ago.
well, that's the thing is, as a Colorado fan, William, how many days a year do you have to actually watch the team on the field? 12, right? 13 if you're
Right.
lucky,
It's crazy.
14 if you're really lucky. Now going into the
I've always
expanded
said that
college
it's
football playoff, it'll
right.
expand, but like your happiness as a college football fan is kind of built off some of this off-season stuff. Like it just
Right.
is
Right.
what it is. And Coach Prime delivers the experience like you can't get anywhere else.
Yeah. I mean, I've always said that it's the craziest sport in the world because you work 365 days a year for 12 darn days. Who does that? It's crazy. It don't make
Yeah,
no sense.
it does. And they're going to get to work, William. I don't know.
Yeah.
How many hours have we gone today?
I don't know. It's getting close to 12:30.
I
I
enjoy
had to go.
talking to you. Like I said,
I had to go save my neighbor and jump her car, but that was
I don't even know. Like this might be like a 10-parter that's going to come out for Colorado fans. But our wives are getting together. Should we do a rundown of that and how that whole event goes down?
Yeah, yeah. Maybe we should podcast some of it. I don't think they want to be on the air though.
No, we're both very lucky men, and I'm excited to break bread with you and your wife. William, appreciate you for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know that this is always seems to be a hectic time of year for you, and but we addressed a whole lot. This was more of kind of unscripted podcast that we've done most times, and
Yeah.
I don't know. People can add us and tell us, but I liked kind of the back and forth that we had.
Well, and I appreciate it. It's nice to be able to just talk about stuff and be more nuanced in conversation than sometimes you can be, in the typed word on a board.
Yeah. All right, William, I appreciate you, and I definitely appreciate everybody out there. If this is only two parts,
Right.
then you get a gold star if
You're still being here.
you finish to the end of this.
Maybe we should say something at this point, and then you get a prize if you can repeat what we said at the end to show that you were there.
uh, at me and tell me your favorite Mexican place in Colorado because I need to find a new one. The
There we go.
last place I have has been pretty disappointing. So, if you have listened to this point of the podcast, reach out to
Yeah,
me.
and here's anybody out there, you got a good fried chicken place? We want to know.
Fried chicken. All right, all right. For barbecue, I'm always gonna stand up for my guy Jason. Have you been to you've been to GQ, right?
Oh yeah, we go there for fairly regularly. Yeah, fantastic
Yeah,
food. Yep.
the best. All right.
We go to
Well,
one down here,
yeah, down in Park Meadows.
Park Meadows. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, William, I appreciate you.
All right.
Like I said already, and I definitely appreciate everybody out there. Give me a good Mexican place to go to.